Give me your purse! Give me your purse! Give it!
It happens once every 32 seconds in America. A burglary, perhaps like this. A man snatches a purse from an unsuspecting woman and takes off.
All right, you just saw the video of the suspect, but do you really remember what he looks like? Well, if not, you're not alone. Remembering something that happened in a split second is pretty difficult for a lot of us.
Yeah, but those split-second moments recalled by victims and bystanders are often what help lead police and prosecutors to a conviction in a crime. Tonight, KHQ Local News reporter Chelsea Kopta investigates the accuracy of eyewitness identification. It's
a special report called Eye on the Crime. Chelsea?
One of the most notorious cases to hit Spokane was the backpack bomb found right over there. So when the FBI launched its first investigation, one of the first places they came was here to Auntie's bookstore to see if anyone saw anything, or even better, the person responsible. But days or even months after the crime happened, how accurate could eyewitnesses really be? It's why KHQ Local News did a test of its own.
Crime can strike anywhere across Spokane, from a bank to a convenience store to a parking lot. You have seconds to react and to remember. Could you pick out the bad guy or risk sending an innocent person to prison? Still think you'd get it right? With cameras watching, we staged our own crime at fine jewelry boutique Finders Keepers, dripping with sparkling bangles, baubles, and beads. The three employees think they're being featured for a story about small business.
Pretty much anything you can think of, we have those type of stones.
But while they show us around the store, the real test was just walking in. Our producer, Luke, pretends he's looking for a present.
Looking for a Mother's Day gift?
Then picks out something pricey, worth $3 grand.
Can I see the necklace?
What's about to happen, the owner is in on, but the employees have no idea what's coming next.
Get down on the ground right now. What? Get the on the ground! Everybody get down on the ground right now!
For a moment, the women stand frozen, then panic.
Where are our holes? Wait. Holes. Stop. It's a mock-up. It's not real. Okay. It's not real.
Like the real thing, our crime went down in under a minute. Then, as if a real theft had been committed, we separated our eyewitnesses.
We're gonna split you guys up.
All right.
Okay, are you okay?
Yes.
And asked them individually to describe the bad guy. How'd they do? Take another look at our suspect. Here's what the employees remembered.
Didn't catch the color of his eyes, and he was behind the counter, so I couldn't see his clothes much.
He was about 5'10", sandy blonde, brown, like a tint of brown hair. He was wearing a black zip-up jacket.
Surprisingly, they remember a lot.
When somebody scares you like that, either your mind goes blank or it burns into your memory.
Previous run-ins with thieves helped these women give a better account of our bad guy. But research on the accuracy of eyewitness accounts is far less impressive. In fact, eyewitness misidentification is the single greatest cause of wrongful convictions nationwide, playing a role in more than 75% of convictions later overturned through DNA testing.
Even though you think, oh, this is so traumatic, I'll never forget, but you've got all this other angst going on, and that puts kind of a filter between your ability to remember.
Along with computer science, Eastern Washington University assistant professor Carol Taylor teaches interdisciplinary studies on eyewitnesses and the law.
I think they give it so much weight. Like, oh, there was a visual witness. That seems to be, oh, well, of course, they just convict him then. So I'm not sure it's really the eyewitness themselves, because they're just going to do the best job they can if they're honest. I think it's the court system that needs to maybe take some other things into account.
And yet eyewitnesses are still one of the most helpful tools prosecutors have in convicting a criminal.
It can be very compelling evidence when someone is saying, I have no doubt that's the person who did it.
Now, for this test, we made sure to take all the necessary steps to protect everyone's safety, including removing any weapons from the store, as well as calling crime checks so they knew what we were doing. But coming up tonight at 6, I tested a whole nother group.
Give me your purse! Give me your purse! Give it!
See how well people respond when they watch someone else become a victim of a crime. Now, you heard some people are critical of eyewitness testimony, but coming up tonight at 6, hear how police and prosecutors use eyewitnesses to build their case. That's coming up at 6. Reporting live in Spokane, I'm Chelsea Kopta, KHQ Local News.
All right, thanks, Chelsea.
KHQ in high definition. This is KHQ Local News at 6.
It's not always reliable. Sometimes it's downright wrong, but eyewitness identification is more often than not one of the main things prosecutors use to convict criminals. Good evening, I'm Stephanie Mitchell.
I'm Nat Kleckner. In our 5 o'clock newscast, we invited you to take the eyewitness test. We staged a robbery of a local business to see how well the employees and you could identify the crook after the fact.
Well, right now at 6 o'clock, we want to test the bystanders of a crime. KHQ Local News reporter Chelsea Kopta has the second part in our special report, Eye on the Crime. Chelsea? Good evening, Dan and Steph. Now, right now, I'm across the street from Riverfront Park, but let's say as I was taking this stroll, someone tried to steal my car. Now, would I remember that incident as well as, say, someone over there or someone over there? Is there a difference between being a victim eyewitness and being a bystander eyewitness? That's what my second test aims to find out.
At 3 different angles, cameras rolled on 5 volunteers at Manitou Park. They believed they were there for a story about taste testing.
So what we have is cookies, some cereal, and then we've got some soda. Taste one of each.
But here's one big difference from our first test. This group got a small heads up. We told them in advance something else was going to happen at the park. They just didn't know when. Our producer, Ann, was our helpless victim. Our photographer, Nick, our so-called thief.
Let's try the one on the right first.
After 15 minutes of testing different brands, the group got its real test.
Give me your purse! Give me your purse! Give it!
For a moment, the participants are frozen.
See that?
Are you okay?
You all right?
Okay. We don't need to call the cops or anything, do we?
Probably we should.
Really?
Then, real concern sets in.
Are you serious?
In the next minute, one of the women takes off after our fake crook and calls police.
I just want to make sure you're okay.
No, I'm fine.
That's why I wanted to give you the heads up.
Once again, we split up our eyewitnesses and asked them to describe our thief. Here's what the criminal looked like. Here's what they remembered.
I remember he was wearing jeans, and that was about it.
He was wearing all black.
A black shirt, and I think he had a hat on.
Blue jeans and a pair of work boots, it looked like. I didn't get a real good look at his face, so...
Like he looks like the Unabomber.
Keep in mind, they were tipped off ahead of time.
I'm actually surprised that I remember as little as I do for knowing what was going on.
But that wasn't the end of our test. Several days later, we called them into our KHQ studios for a photo lineup, like police do. We presented each person with 6 images with the same features as our so-called crook. Did they pass?
Possibly. I think so far, yeah.
No. No. Yes.
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 I think that's him.
I guess that would be it. I'm about 50% sure.
In the end, every volunteer picked the right guy. But it's clear some of these eyewitnesses are wary of their pick. In a real crime, would that be enough to build a strong case?
We've had people swear up and down they saw this happen. And in the end, there's absolutely no physical evidence to substantiate that.
Spokane police officers know as well as anyone that the mind is not like a tape recorder to be stopped and played back. Every day, well-intentioned people make mistakes, and bad guys, they just lie. That's why detectives have to vet every eyewitness and compare their story to hard evidence.
And so then it becomes this one big puzzle where it all fits together, and at that point we can hand it to the prosecutor's office. One of those puzzle pieces is the witness.
Spokane County Chief Criminal Deputy Prosecutor Jack Driscoll agrees. Nowadays, he says, it's unlikely a case would ever rely solely on eyewitness accounts.
And I think that happens less and less because we do recognize that there's been an evolution in how eyewitness testimony is viewed from a number of different studies, that it's not as reliable as once it was thought to be.
Clearly, prosecutors here in Spokane do not put as much weight on eyewitness testimony as they used to, but that's not to say that all eyewitnesses are unreliable. In fact, they've helped out in plenty of cases. But for now, prosecutors describe it as just another tool in their arsenal. Reporting live, I'm Chelsea Kopta, KHQ Local News.
But Chelsea, if eyewitness accounts can be unreliable sometimes, has anyone in Spokane ever been wrongfully convicted because of an eyewitness?
Well, finding the answer to that question is difficult at best because the Spokane County prosecutors do not track crimes based on eyewitness testimony or eyewitness cases alone. So another thing I did was reach out to the Innocence Project in Seattle. They told me based on their research, they have not been able to find anyone here in Spokane who's been wrongfully convicted because of eyewitness testimony. Dan?
All right, thank you, Chelsea.